Shabbat Shalom. This week, we read Parshat Pekudei, which completes the second book of the Torah, the book of Shemot, the book of Exodus. And it ends with perhaps one of the most powerful sentences in the entire Torah. Ki anan Adonai al hamishkan yomam ve'esh tiyeh laila bo le'nei chol beit Yisrael b'chol ma'asehem. For the cloud of God would be on the tabernacle by day, and fire would be there by night, before the eyes of all of the house of Israel throughout all of their journeys. That sentence always strikes me as beautiful and powerful and conclusive, and even perhaps a little bit cinematic. And so, I wanted to play a game this morning where I'd like to consider that final line from Sefer Shemot alongside such great closing lines as the following. Tell me if you recognize some of these. Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Casablanca, very good. Forget it, Jake, it's Chinatown. Chinatown. Halavai, we could quote Torah like this. This is personally one of my favorites. I do wish we could chat longer, but I'm having an old friend for dinner. Bye-bye. Silence of the Lambs. Very good, very good. I can assure you there aren't many rabbis quoting Silence of the Lambs from the Bima this morning around the world. Go proclaim liberty throughout all the lands unto all the inhabitants thereof. 10 Commandments, that's exactly right. Wow. For the cloud of God would be on the tabernacle by day, and fire would be there by night, before the eyes of all of the house of Israel throughout all of their journeys. Shemot, very good. See, we've come so far, even just in a few minutes. In the case of all of the other concluding lines of great narratives, they're the type of lines that prompt the end to appear on the screen. Each of these lines serve two purposes. They close the story down, and they let you know that the characters will continue on in some fantasy realm. When the Torah completes the final line of Exodus, we do not close the story. Next week, we'll continue on with Sefer Vayikra, the book of Leviticus. And with the word Masehem throughout all of their journeys, the there in their journeys, the there the text is referring to is the journeys of the Jewish people. The characters who the Torah is referring to is actually us, continuing on in reality. So collectively, we are Humphrey Bogart walking off into the distance this morning. We are Jack Nicholson realizing a deeper truth about the world. We are Anthony Hopkins gingerly walking off after his next meal. We are the Jewish people trekking in the desert with our newly created tabernacle, the Mishkan. And we are so much more. So what is Exodus trying to say? Why would there be a need for more Torah after this kind of line? After this type of relationship with God is established? After this level of accomplishment of spirituality? If the entire point of the second half of Sefer Shemot, of Exodus, of the last 15 chapters of the book that we've read, is to build the Mishkan and create all of its utensils for worship, then our story is complete. Unless the point of the Mishkan isn't whether or not we build it, but rather how we interact with it. Perhaps the larger point isn't whether we can build a sanctuary, which is far-fetched for any of the Jewish people who have ever walked into Home Depot like myself, but rather the question is how we use it to interact with God throughout all the journeys of our generations. Therein lies the message of Shemot. That generation achieved freedom from Egypt and freedom to worship God so that later generations could have the luxury of being born into a full, robust, beautiful Jewish tradition. Our story never ends. We're a people that doesn't know how to say goodbye. At Shabbat dinner, our goodbyes begin at the table with people seated, and they continue with people standing at the table, and then in the hallway by the doorway we say goodbye again. Oftentimes we walk people down the stairs into the driveway and say goodbye, and we can see goodbyes continuing on down the sidewalk. The end, thank God the Jewish people has no idea what that means. There's always more for our story. The story of the Jewish people is an unfolding one, crafted and recrafted by each and every generation. And that's why it's so meaningful this week as we complete the book of Exodus. We acknowledge Liza Ariel's Hebrew name at the Torah. And we celebrate as a community, as a people, as the same Jewish people from the book that we read, from the Torah scroll that's been reading that Torah scroll for thousands of years, that same sentence, that our story is continuing and that her life, Liza's life, her journey, will be included in all of our journeys, Masehem, for all of us. I pray it's a journey that began thousands of years ago and will continue on, God willing, forever. And let us say, Amen.